गुड मॉर्निंग, वेलकम टू वीलर्न में आपका स्वागत है। टॉपिक फॉर टुडेज डिस्कशन इज इंटरनेशनल मार्केटिंग मैनेजमेंट and we are covering session 10. Topics to be covered are introduction, international distribution, meaning and importance, international channel system, types of intermediaries and their functions, factors affecting channel choice, selecting and motivating overseas agents, export agency agreement, overview of physical distribution system, and introduction to the distribution. When we say distribution is a process which is important in both international and domestic marketing. So when we say in distribution process for international marketing, it also encompasses all those activities which are related to time, to place and ownership of utilities for industrial and end user consumers. A similar pattern which is being followed in the domestic distribution. Also, howsoever the diverse activities and culturally differentiated roles of channel intermediaries make the company's formulation of distribution strategies a challenge for any firm entering the international marketing. Again, the selection and operation and motivation of effective channel of distribution often turn out to be a very, very crucial factor. So when we say distribution, and in case of international marketing, it is somewhat similar to the domestic market. What differs here in this particular case is the environmental influences that in the end may lead to substantial different policies and channel options. The international marketer here needs to understand how environmental influences may affect the distribution policies and options. So using the knowledge, the international company must use the appropriate channel on a country by country basis. The structure of the distribution system available in the country is also influenced by the economic development of the country, the personal disposable income of consumer, and the quality of infrastructure, as well as factors such as cultural, physical environment, and or legal political system. When we say international distribution, so distribution channels here are the link between the producer and the consumer, and it is a very, very known fact that to be an effective marketing thing, making the product available to the end consumer at an appropriate time and at a time which is appropriate to the consumer and at a place where he can find and readily find the product, and value for money at the minimum possible cost, the cost which is very much equated to the price. In other words, a distribution channel is a set of firms and individuals that take title or assist in transferring title of a particular good or service as it moves from producer to consumer. So when we talk about channel of distribution, it basically consists of two categories of intermediaries. Intermediaries are the people, they are basically the middlemen who work as intermediaries. They work as a focal point from where the products are made available to the end consumer. So first basically is merchants who take the title of the goods, who buy the good and sell it in their name, and another is agent who do not take the title of the good but assist in transferring of the title. So here each member of the channel is a link in the distribution network of organization that extends from the producer to the user of products and services. The points that are to be taken care is that economic development of a country also to a very great extent influence the distribution, the channel of distribution. How it influences? It influences first in like the more a developed country is, there would have more levels of distribution. There would be more specialty stores, there would be more supermarkets, there would be more departmental store, right? And the influence of foreign agents decline with economic development. The manufacturer, wholesaler, retail functions become separated with increasing economic development. Financing function of wholesaler decline and wholesale market increase with increasing development. Another point that is to be considered here is the number of small store declines and the size of average store increases with increasing development. Retail margins improve with improving and increasing economic development. When we talk about international channel system, in marketing there are two categories of channels. The first one is the channel between the nation and another is channel within the foreign market. So when we say the international distribution system, they consist of two subsystems, mainly the domestic segment and another is foreign segment. So when the export is direct, there are two types of exporting. There are two ways we can export. One is direct exporting, another is indirect exporting. So when we say the export is direct, here the producer himself takes the responsibility for marketing the job and makes direct sale to any one or more of the foreign customers, right? Now when we talk about indirect exporting, here the distinction between direct and indirect exporting is on the basis of how the export carries out the transaction flow between himself and the foreign importer and the buyer. And in case of when a manufacturer exports indirectly, it's a scenario where he transfers the responsibility for selling the job to some other organization. And in case of direct export, the responsibility here of performing the sales, international sales, is basically on the producer, and these activities are carried out by the producer organizations, right? When we talk about indirect methods, when we talk about the policies of indirect exporting, there are several advantages that it helps in doing. First is standing in the market. Since a new exporter, he is likely to be an unknown player and unknown element. So is the case with the price and quantity of his product. He needs to match those of the competing companies. Here, the many buyers, they do not take the risk of dealing with an unknown party's offer. In such a situation, it is very easier and advisable to gain the credibility of the market by penetrating through a known distributor. Another is economies of scale. When we talk about economies of scale, there are customers of certain range of products. They generally purchase a set of complementary products rather than one. So a distributor handling a complete line can therefore effectively economize on selling cost. Another is a firm does not have to build on an overseas market venture. when he is taking care of indirect export. Here the channel, it is a very simple and inexpensive method. The risk involved is very less since the local party is also involved. Other is little or no investment is required to enter the overseas market. There are certain limitations also which should be taken care of. First, here the manufacturer gives up a control over the marketing of his product to another firm. So there is no direct control. The control loses as the product reaches the intermediary. This situation can adversely affect the producer's success in the future. If the chosen intermediary is not aggressive, in that particular case, the manufacturer may become vulnerable, especially in cases where competitors are able to obtain the services of a more aggressive intermediary. When we discuss it through a chart, it is very much advisable, seeable that the producer in a home market, what kind of middlemen are followed? A merchant or an agent. When it plans to enter into a foreign market, there are other kind of middlemen that are taken care of. The first part could be the importer distributor who could sell directly to the consumer. Another is agent broker. He sells first to the retailer before reaching to the final consumer. Another is the wholesaler then supplies it to the retailer and then to the consumer, or there could be a situation where the wholesaler directly sells it to the consumer. Another situation that could happen is that from the home market middleman, that is an agent or the merchant, the product flows directly to the foreign market middleman retailer before reaching the final consumer. When we discuss about direct channel through a diagram, here the producer, all the middlemen are under his control even in case of a direct. There is no other foreign market intervention. Here he directly gives it to the importer or to the wholesaler or to the distributor, retailer, end user, government department. When we discuss in detail about the importers, they identify local market requirement and find products from world market to satisfy these needs. When we talk about foreign distributor, it is a firm in the overseas country that has exclusive right to undertake the distribution function for a manufacturer in its country or specific area. When we talk about foreign retailers, if a manufacturer directly supplies to foreign retailers, it means the product in question are consumer products rather than industrial products. When we talk about government department or state-owned trading companies, this is a scenario where in some countries government departments or government-owned companies, they buy large quantities of certain goods, often on long-term basis directly from the supplier. Another is end users. Here is a case when a manufacturer sells directly to the foreign end user with no intermediary involved in the process. So this direct channel is logical and natural choice for high unit value and high technology items. When we talk about indirect channel or domestic market channel members, so a manufacturer here often they do not sell directly to various foreign parties, right? Foreign parties like foreign distributors, foreign retailers, government department or state control department. There are many intermediaries that operate between the foreign buyers and the local manufacturer. Here the manufacturer deals with one or more domestic middlemen who in turn move or sell the product to foreign middlemen or final user. So they are grouped under two broad categories. First is domestic agent and another is domestic merchants. So when we talk about domestic agents, so they are classified basically according to principle whom they represent. So some agent intermediaries, they represent buyers, others represent the interest of the manufacturers. But it should be also noted that those who work for the manufacturer export include export brokers, also manufacturer export agents. Now there are agents who look after the interest of the buyers. The first one is export management companies, EMC. They manage under contract the entire export activities of a manufacturer. Another is export broker. The function of an export broker is basically to bring the buyer and the seller together for a fee. Manufacturer's export agent, they are the individual or even firms that assist manufacturers in exporting good. Purchasing agent, when we talk about, they represent foreign buyers. They, by residing and conducting business in the exporter's country, the purchasing agent, they are in a favorable position to seek a product that matches the foreign principal's preferences. Country controlled buying agent. This kind of agent performs exactly the same function as that of a purchasing agent. The only distinction is that the country controlled buying agent is a foreign government agency or a quasi-government firm. Resident buyers, when we talk about, they are another variations on the purchasing agent in the resident buyer. Indirect channels में another category that is to be discussed is domestic merchant. In domestic merchant there are subdivisions, subcategories. One is export merchant. What happens in this case? The domestic based export merchant here buys the manufacturer products and sell it abroad on its own. Another is export houses, most prevalent. So there are a number of export houses that export products produced by manufacturers. Another are trading companies. Unlike an export house which concentrates on export, a trading company is a company which is active in both export and import. When we talk about piggybacking, so when a company is not able to find any kind of channel partner who has sufficient interest to pioneer new products, the practice of piggybacking may offer a way out of the situation. It is an agreement with another company which sells to the same customer segment to take on the new product as it is for the manufacturer. Now there are factors that affect the channel choices. So for both indirect and direct, the first factor is the market. So how dispersed is the market? What kind of small potential sales or large potential sales? In an indirect market channels, it would be a dispersed scenario. In a direct case, it would be a concentrated scenario. The other factor that influences the product. In case of indirect channels, only the non-technical products which are consumer goods. As far as direct marketing, direct channels are concerned, the products which are taken care of are technical products or industrial products. Another factor which is affecting the channel choice is marketing skills of the company. So if a company lacks marketing skills and experience, they basically go in for indirect channels, whereas a company who possesses a good amount of marketing skills and they have a lot of years of experience, then direct channel is the choice. Degree of control is also an important factor, and financial condition of the company. There are some additional points which also to be considered while deciding on the factors which affect channel choices. There are various characteristics of the product. So A unit product is one such characteristic. So only direct sales are preferred for items of high unit value, if there are high unit of value. Bulk and weight, perishability, fashion goods, standardization, usage, stage of market development. These are the characteristics of product which also influence the channel choice. Another is, who is the buyer? Is government department a buyer, or is it an industrial buyer, or a distributor, or a wholesaler, or a large retail store? Who is the buyer? Then the volume of sales expected. What kind of sales volumes are expected? That is, if the existing and the potential future size of the market. Larger the size, the shorter will be the channel. Firm's own resources. How much resources in terms of finance, skill, time and attention, right? Selecting and motivating overseas agent. When we talk about overseas agent, so a firm, in order to be in constant touch with a particular territory or to exploit the full potential of the market, it is very, very essential for an exporting organization to have their own offices in that market, right? But what happens, but many small and medium enterprises, they may not be able to afford such a structure. Here the agent, does not trade on his own, but what he does, he secures orders in the name of and on account of the principal and gets commission on the basis of business, and that is how he is able to generate the business. There are major advantages when we talk about overseas agents. So the first is, in some countries there are legal stipulation that all import or tenders are to be handled through local agents. Alright. Another is, the agent here is a local man and is therefore expected to be more knowledgeable. He is also likely to have good contacts with the decision makers at various levels because he is situated locally. Another, he will have offices in major commercial centers of the country and therefore will be in a position to call personally on many buyers at regular intervals. Data and information relevant at the principal's operation can be collected and disseminated by the local agent. Now, how to identify foreign agents? The International Union for Commercial Agents and Brokers, they are based in Amsterdam, provides information about agents which are located in European countries. There are other methods of identifying agents, like visiting fairs and exhibitions. Advertising in trade general can also bring about a fruitful result, right? So when there are essentially three qualities which an exporter should look for in an agent: what kind of character he possesses, what is the capital that he could invest, and what is the capacity. So they are the three C's that should be looked into. Now when we say motivating and controlling agent, the exporting firm must develop a system for motivating the agent. So one way to do is through granting exclusive agency right. That is how it is motivated. Another is by providing incentive to the agent, that is to introduce variable commission rates. So in the beginning of the year a target may be set. If the agent is able to surpass the target, he may be given higher rate of commissions. So how the payment of agency commission as far as India is concerned? So payment of commission to overseas agent is either allowed by remitting the amount or by deducting it from the invoice value. It is one method, right? So the application indicating the particulars such as export, code number, custom billing, number, date, name of the commodity, name and address of the buyers. They should be submitted to the authorized dealer together with an attested copy of invoice and documentary evidence. For remitting the agent's commission, the exporter will have to purchase foreign exchange from the free market. Now, when we talk about export agency agreement, it is basically a legal document which establishes the commercial relationship between the principal and the agent. It also incorporates the condition under which are agreed upon by the concerned parties for the conduct of business. Now, there are certain points to be noted while negotiating for any agency agreement. The first is parties to the contract. Who all would be the parties under the contract? What would be the contractual product, and what is the contracted territory, to which area the contract could be extended. Now, for how long the contract is valid, that is another point. Another is international buying groups may like to contract the exporters directly. Here the exporter should reserve the right to negotiate directly with international buying groups in their own territories. Alright. Now there is an overview of physical distribution system. Here, international physical distribution, it encompasses the logistics or movements of goods and services across the countries from the source of supply to the center of demand. Here we also include the warehousing, transportation and inventory controls. Now there are three important aspects of any physical distribution. The warehousing, transport and inventory are to be taken care of. Do it yourself. What are the factors affecting the channel choice, and do you think that overseas agents are advantageous? Thank you and have a nice day. Keep learning and relearning.